Welcome back to America's Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael. It's brought to you by CommercialAgentSuccess.com. Check it out for the ultimate and commercial real estate agent video training, CommercialAgentSuccess.com. Well, today we're covering the CRE counselors' top 10 issues affecting real estate. They put out this report every year. It's awesome, great group of people, and they spend a lot of time, a lot of interviews, a lot of roundtables, helping us look at the future, right? What do we need to keep in mind for real estate moving forward? My guest is Michael Couillard. He's CRE Counselors Global Chair for 2020. He's also CEO of Muzak Corporation, an equity fund management company. And so now we're at number 6, and this is an interesting one because I think a lot of us are been confined to our houses and not traveling everything. So number 6, drum roll, is flow of people. Tell us about that.
Well, flow of people between and within countries is always like a critical driver to the economy and real estate. Demand increases where population flows, basically. And for us now, immigration is pretty much halted, driven by nationalistic policies, or more recently now the COVID crisis. And also internal migration is within regions has decreased obviously in the last few months. Reduced migration and COVID-19 behavioral change hurts demand for residential, hospitality, and obviously retail, but also companies and universities relying on foreign workers and students, and that's another issue. In early May, there was a poll, Harris poll. 40% of urbanites were considering leaving the city for the suburbs, concerned about the health crisis. I would imagine that percentage has fallen down, but that's small. But this really pushes the expansion of the hub and spoke model, basically, of your core being your hub and your suburbs area and suburban markets that are benefiting from it. I believe we'll see some of that. I'm actually living through a couple of examples in Canada exactly about that, where the corporation or the company is established in the core, but they're seeking to reduce their space and their print in the core and open up a couple of offices on the suburb sides, both on the north side and the south side of Montreal. So, and we're going to see a bit of that going on. This is probably going to be short term to medium term, and our core are going to bounce back again. I'm not worried there, but it's interesting to see. So there is this movement. The flexibility of people to move to better job also has always driven productivity and I guess thus the real estate market as well. Migration, urbanism, and even global connection has always been central components to the growing world economies and real estate. And nationalism and the COVID crisis right now just reset the playing fields and just by limiting the migration and slamming the economy with what we're seeing now, but limiting also international cooperation. So that's what we see in terms of flow of people. Obviously, as the recovery comes back, and especially as we start seeing cure to this health crisis, we might probably going to see a little bit more flow of people again and migration being more active.
Yeah. Well, let's get to number 7, which is an interesting one. I guess you were kind of touching on it there. It's space utilization.
Yeah. COVID will have a lasting impact, and then there's some impacts that are probably going to go away after a few years, but there's going to be some lasting impacts on design and use of space again, location, and mechanical infrastructure of buildings and properties, interior configuration. Will there be more space needs in terms of the workplace because of less density? Will there be less space needs because of people working more remotely? Um, is this going to be a trend in terms of remote work in the sense that you're probably not going to have complete remote work, but you're probably going to have a rotation of your staff, of your people that you want to see. You want to probably limit them their traveling times to back to the city, and you've invested and you've been able to work with remote employees for a few months now. I think there's a trend that's going to be implementing itself, and we're actually seeing talking to companies and company heads and principals that are thinking of adopting this, at least trying it out for a while and see how that works. Um, there's a new focus to be placed on health of building occupants, and from building entry and vertical transit and improvements to indoor air quality, monitoring the health and vital signs in buildings, reductions of contaminants. There's definitely a focus there, and key urban planning and density capacity revisions are needed for transport hubs and transit halls and large common area space and housing and hospitality and workplace and even retail and senior res and healthcare areas. And even large venues like cultural, sports, and recreational venues. I mean, there's so many uh, density and capacity revision to bring to those property types. Um, they basically interesting in the retail. I mean, retail is going through such a dramatic change, and it's they're having such problems. But the medium density and mixed use communities, I think, will replace the old retail format, and we're starting to see it. And with design that embraces more walkability and integration, especially more urban retail. A little resembling a little bit like the European cities. I think Europe is more in that way of thinking in terms of their retail. Obviously, the retail per capita in Europe is a lot less than what you see in the States and even Canada. But still, there's many classic retail format that will never recover, and they'll require. It's going to require creative reuse and complete redevelopment in some cases.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I agree. I think there's a lot of great retail locations, a lot of great retail real estate that'll be interesting to see how some of the changes and uses happen. And, we on the use of office space, seems like we've seen a big push for companies to use less square footage per person, and open rooms and open space. And I started seeing some pushback on that when employment got tight. And I think that's good. I think to see some more pushback on that for health reasons. And hey, I'm so welcome for touchless technology. I shouldn't have to touch things when I go into a building and get in an elevator. I'm ready for that. Been ready for it. And it's interesting too to see some of the companies, some of the large companies, well known that went to having people work mobily, that ended up having to come back to it and say, look, we're losing culture, we're losing productivity, we're losing retention, and we're losing, just the profitability at the end of the day. So it'd be interesting to see how those trends work out. And you did mention when you're talking about office earlier about potentially people needing more space. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. And it kind of works into your guys' number 8, which is technology and workflow. Tell us about that.
Well, I guess the COVID, it brought an urgency for technology to monitor and manage and mitigate risks, and that's what we've been doing for the last few months, is really mitigating our risks. And combination of back to the office, the need to reconfigure planning and operations, and desire for more remote work can only accelerate the adoption of technology. Um, so I guess from many technologies, from nice to have, it becomes mandatory. And you were talking about touchless and contactless doors and elevators and sanitary equipments and um, air and water quality monitoring and building systems, airflows, recirculation controls. all this is going to, I mean, remote building systems and services, health screening and vital signs monitoring in buildings. It's taking its, it's developing that way, and it's shaping up to be quite a, um, I guess, a new way of operating your properties, not just the office buildings. You'd see that in pretty much every asset class we can think of. And I guess this necessity will move us to better and smarter buildings in terms of operation. I guess just like we, in terms of doing our work, we were forced to adopt virtual meetings and better safety standards and privacy and collaboration tools. So this is really a change. This is really a well, first, there's a change in density, use patterns, and meeting frequency and movement are likely to happen more often and resulting in safer and more efficient space and better prepared for the next big surprise. Hopefully, not soon, but we have to be prepared and we have to stay prepared, creating more confidence for tenants and residents and shoppers, travelers, and events attendees. So that's the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the technology you mentioned there means a healthier environment. Those are all great things for all of us. And then number 9 is one that we've heard before and still on the list, even though COVID's going on: infrastructure. Tell us about that.
Well, that's an important one, Mike, and we'll probably see it again in our future top 10. I can't predict, but it's one that's basically a long-term issue that needs to be dealt with, a bit like our affordable housing thing. It's got infrastructure has a significant impact on land and the built environment and in our lives in general, and funding is elusive and probably more now than ever. Obviously, with all the public debt and relief programs out there, there's going to be less room for infrastructure, direct payments anyway, direct economic implication basically with our governments. But basically, the estimated global infrastructure of our infrastructure already in place, not even the ones that we need to develop with or tend towards, but the underinvestment and the gap is more or less evaluated at $15 trillion globally. And that's just, again, dealing with the ongoing current infrastructure. It has a serious impact on our quality of life, the economic development, the real estate values, and future resiliency of our basic systems. The American Society of Civil Engineers rated our infrastructure situation to be a D+. That's their rating they gave. The online shopping, by the way, just that we're going through now, which basically increased quite a bit, and it was already in progress, and it's increasing more and more. It's continuously expanding right now, and the demand for a strong logistic infrastructure will be urgent, and particularly the last mile warehousing and distribution facilities are being critical, especially when we get to essential services. And we didn't touch it too much there, but in our issue number 2 and 1, I think the importance of having a bit of reshoring of certain manufacturing coming back to the U.S., especially in strategic and essential products and goods, and not just in terms of healthcare, but generally speaking, will become important. And again, the logistic infrastructure is a key into establishing a back to manufacturing in that respect. The need for private funding to join the depleted public funding is also great. I think we need, again, the private sector to get involved with the infrastructure projects that we need to get going, but also to maintain what we have.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like bringing more manufacturing back to the U.S. Is something that a lot of companies are interested in and should be great for our economy there. Now, number 10, drum roll, please. I guess it's the end, right? So it made it. ESG, tell us about that.
Well, ESG, environment, social, and governance are three factors measuring sustainability and societal impact, I guess, of an investment. Uh, ESG is no longer an emerging trend, Michael. It's a critical component of a real estate investment. It's become that way, and COVID-19 has underscored that importance. But it was already very well, on its way and established as for the last couple of years. It's becoming very key into our investment strategy. Trends were already underway, like I said, and there were a few factors for that. I mean, the risk of climate change is a big factor, and there's more. It's more prioritized. There's more of it, stronger impact and effect of climate changes and disasters, uh, and at a global scale as well. Insurance have gone up drastically the last 5 years. As you know, innovations in measurements and tracking ESG performance is better as well. Even on the European side, Europe is actually going through a disclosure of ESG and is to be mandatory in 2021. And I guess that's transition that they're going through to a low carbon resilience and resource efficient economy. Um, Another factor is the new innovative ESG investment alternatives. Some energy savings innovation, even at the grid level, the battery storage, smart meters, electric vehicles, solar cladding, even to buildings, health sensors. This is all new innovation that's helping ESG investment alternatives. And then we have obviously the growing influence of millennials that are really overtaken the boomers as majority workforce, and they show a greater interest and concern with ESG monitoring and compliance. And as we see, Michael, I think in terms of business recognition of ESG initiatives, I think we see a lot more of that every year. And if you look at 20% of the global Fortune 500 committed to 100% renewable power, low carbon, and neutral by 2030. That's pretty fast. That's in 10 years. But you can see that major institutions that are invested in real estate and pension funds and equity funds, large equity funds, are looking to be ESG compliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it makes sense. And it's good for everybody in the climate. Well, Michael, your top 10 at CRE counselors this year has obviously been really impacted by COVID, and obviously there's a lot of negative things that's causing. If we can, let's end this show with thinking about, hey, what are some of the positives that come out of this? And I think you've touched on some of them with this top 10, but as far as the recovery goes and where we were financially and debt wise and real estate wise and bank wise when we went into this, and the amount of dry powder on the sideline, and what some of these changes could mean for us health wise and efficiency wise coming out of it. What are some positives that could come out of this COVID thing?
Well, again, Michael, duration is very important here, and it has a direct impact on consumer confidence and I guess ability to congregate and more positive outlook and behavior. And that's a start. That needs to start there. Corporations all the way to the individuals, and so we got to get people back to work, and it only can get going if we get this consumer confidence in place and we're able to open up. But we got to find a way to get to a treatment or to a vaccine in order to really be open, or to be a lot at ease to open up our economy, and that's going to hold us back. I believe and I think we're getting close to getting somewhere that with a vaccine or herd immunity or even the treatment. Um, but as economy, confidence will set in, and the economy and real estate markets will recover gradually. But don't forget, real estate always lags the economy. So economy has to start up again, and hopefully with the stimulus in place. And I think there's some still strong fundamentals to get the economy going. I think it's going to bounce back. It's like I said, it's going to probably be a 1 to 2 year situation. Real estate is going to follow, um, and employment is going to rise. Individual buying power is going to resurge, and capital liquidity will start flowing again. Um, I'm confident that we'll bounce back. I think, like I said in the beginning, I think there is some uh, impacts and effect of this crisis that's going to stay. Some changes, some innovation, evolution is going to can stay, some will stay, uh, and some habits will probably die off, and we'll come back to certain ways we used to think. But in generally speaking, I think times of crisis like that opens the way to innovation to address more crisis situation in the future. And it gives us a chance also to restabilize our fundamentals and our parameters for a better economy and a better life.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. And I think it also help us appreciate, our family and our loved ones, and and actually seeing and being with the people, which is what makes life go around. And I think if we look back on this in a couple of years, I think we'll also see a lot less deaths from the flu. I think we were living in an environment that really overall was not healthy, and I think that's going to be something that really good comes out of this. So I think, and another thing I think is going to happen is that it's going to make our companies, our business, our real estate, really look to be more profitable, more efficient, I guess I should say. And, and companies are kind of look at everything a lot closer, knowing that, hey, you got to realize that, like you said, maybe there's something else around the corner, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And we look at our business and our productivity in our lives, and we're all more efficient. We all appreciate things more. And at the end of the day, this too shall pass, right?
Exactly.
Well, Michael, thank you for joining us. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I said, well said. It's, it's, I guess real estate implication will be determined by how long, again, this behavioral change will last, and what's going to stick. And then the quality of innovations in healthcare, that's a big thing. The ways of living and working that emerges now, how, are we going to change to that extent? It will be interesting to see. 2020 is basically the year where things get stable, has to be restabilized and has to come back and has to reinvent itself. And like I said, there's going to be things that are going to be different. There's going to be things that are going to be eventually coming back. But you can't always be, like we said, in the beginning, I think end of cycles, I think we've gone through the longest cycle of growth ever. Since we've started to monitor these things, mid 1900s, and it was time, I guess, for not necessarily a shutdown that we've lived through, but certainly a slowdown.
Yeah.
And, but now we're forced to reinvent and reestablish our bases.
And that's what we'll do. Michael, great information. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
And thank you for joining us around the country. We appreciate you listening to the show or watching it. We'll have a link to the actual report here on the show website at CREshow.com. And hey, we appreciate hearing from you. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate you sharing the show. And hey, until next time, be sure you always lead, learn, and laugh. And join us for America's Commercial Real Estate Show. Appreciate the show? Consider referring business or doing business with our sponsors. Bull Realty is a commercial real estate sales, leasing, and advisory firm doing business throughout the Southeast, headquartered in Atlanta. Visit bullrealty.com for more information. Commercial Agent Success Strategies provides video training for commercial agents. This training gets 5-star reviews from even the most experienced brokers. Learn more at commercialagentsuccess.com. You're invited to connect with us on your favorite social media. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Don't miss a show of special interest to you. Be sure and subscribe to the show on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. And at the show website, CREshow.com, you can subscribe for a weekly email announcing the show topic and guest. While you're there, you also found more videos and podcasts. Thank you for watching or listening to America's Commercial Real Estate Show.